10 years ago, they mocked my body. Today, they were literally on their knees apologizing. But this story isn't about revenge, it's about becoming unstoppable. Hey, I'm Sarah, and if you love real comeback stories, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. 2014, Boston University, business major. I was 20 years old, overweight, obsessed with Disney movies, and yeah, I wore cartoon backpacks to lectures. But honestly, I didn't care what people thought. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. There were 3 guys in my marketing class: Derek, Marcus, and Jason. The typical cool kids with designer clothes, fake confidence, and apparently way too much free time. It started small. Whispers when I walked by, snickers during group projects. Then Derek started making elephant sounds whenever I entered the classroom. Marcus created a meme comparing me to Ursula from The Little Mermaid and posted it in our class group chat. Jason told me I should hit the gym instead of hitting the books because nobody was going to hire someone who looked like me anyway. The professor never noticed. Or maybe she did, and just chose to ignore it. Either way, I was completely on my own. Then came the massive group presentation, worth 40% of our final grade. And of course, I got paired with Derek and Marcus. Jason was in another group, thank God. We had 2 weeks to prepare. I tried setting up meetings. They ghosted me. I created a shared document with research and ideas. They never even opened it. 3 days before the presentation, I finally cornered them after class. Derek looked me up and down with this smug expression and told me I should just do the PowerPoint while they handled the talking, because nobody wanted to see me up there anyway. Marcus laughed and agreed, saying I should do everyone a favor and stay behind the laptop. I should have been devastated. I should have cried. But instead, something clicked inside me. I smiled. A real, genuine smile, and I told them sure, I'd handle everything. They shouldn't worry about it. They thought they'd won. They had absolutely no idea what was coming. I spent the next 72 hours working harder than I'd ever worked in my life, but I wasn't just doing some basic PowerPoint. I was building something much bigger. The assignment was to create a marketing strategy for a failing local business and present it to actual investors our professor had invited. Real people with real money. This wasn't just about a grade anymore. It was an opportunity. I chose a small family-owned bakery that was about to close down. I didn't just do online research. I spent hours at that actual bakery, talking to the owners, understanding their story, analyzing their customer base, studying their competitors, creating a complete digital transformation strategy. Social media presence, influencer partnerships, community events, subscription boxes, online ordering system, brand redesign. I mapped out everything with projected costs, timelines, and revenue forecasts. Presentation day arrived. Derek and Marcus showed up in their best suits, ready to charm the investors with with absolutely nothing, because they hadn't prepared a single thing. When they saw my 60-slide presentation with complete market analysis, financial projections, and implementation phases, Derek's face went completely pale. I told them this was what happened when someone actually worked. I went up there alone. My heart was racing, but my voice stayed steady. I presented for 35 minutes straight. I answered every single question the investors threw at me. I showed them mock-ups, data, testimonials I'd personally gathered from bakery customers. Everything. Derek and Marcus just sat there frozen, unable to contribute even one word because they literally knew nothing about the project. When I finished, the room went completely silent for about 5 seconds. Then one investor started clapping, then another, then the entire room. One of them, A woman named Patricia Chen, who owned a venture capital firm, approached me after class and handed me her business card. She told me she'd been investing for 20 years, and what I'd just presented was one of the most thorough strategies she'd ever seen from a student. The bakery owners were in the audience and wanted to talk to me, and so did she. She told me to call her when I graduated. Derek and Marcus got a C-. I got an A+, but more importantly, I got something else that day: clarity. I realized that while they'd been busy mocking my appearance, I'd been busy building actual skills. While they'd been creating memes, I'd been creating value, and that difference was going to matter a lot. The bakery implemented my strategy. Today, they're a multi-location success story, and Patricia became my mentor. After graduation, I took an entry-level job at a mid-sized marketing firm. The pay was terrible, but I didn't care. I worked 12-hour days, took on every project nobody else wanted, learned everything I could about digital marketing, brand strategy, consumer psychology, data analytics. I got certified in Google Analytics, Facebook Blueprint, HubSpot. I attended every conference I could afford. I read every book on marketing strategy, leadership, and business growth. While my former classmates were posting party photos on Instagram, I was posting case studies on LinkedIn. 2 years later, a bigger agency headhunted me. Better title, better pay. I took it. Then another agency came calling 18 months after that with an even better offer. I kept climbing. Success wasn't just about working hard, though. It was about working smart, building relationships, becoming someone people could trust to deliver actual results, not just empty promises. I started landing major clients, a fitness brand that grew 340% in 1 year under my strategy, a tech startup that went from complete unknown to industry leader in 18 months, a restaurant chain that expanded from 3 locations to 25. My name started getting recognized in the industry. By year 5, I was senior director at one of Boston's top marketing agencies. By year 7, I made VP. I had a team of 30 people reporting to me. I was making 6 figures, speaking at industry events, living my actual dream. And I still wore my Disney backpack to the office sometimes, because screw anyone who thought success had some kind of dress code. Year 8, a Fortune 500 company reached out. They were struggling hard. Outdated brand, ineffective marketing, losing market share to competitors. They needed someone to completely turn things around. They needed a chief marketing officer. The interview process was brutal. 5 rounds of interviews, presentations to the board, complete strategy proposals. But I'd been preparing for this moment my entire career. I knew my stuff inside and out. I got the job. 32 years old, CMO of a company with 8,000 employees, corner office, seat on the executive team. Everything I'd worked for. First order of business was building my leadership team. I needed 3 senior directors, 1 for digital strategy, 1 for brand management, 1 for analytics and insights. HR sent over a huge stack of resumes. I started reviewing candidates and scheduling interviews. And that's when I saw 3 familiar names on the applicant list: Derek Morrison, Marcus Williams, Jason Chen. My college bullies were applying to work for me. I could have rejected their applications immediately. Nobody would have questioned me. But I didn't. I wanted to see who they'd become after 10 years. And honestly, I was curious if they'd even recognize me. Derek came in first. He'd gained weight himself, lost most of his hair, had this desperate energy radiating off him. He sat across from me in the conference room looking nervous, clutching his portfolio like it was a life preserver. He didn't recognize me initially. I asked standard interview questions: his experience, his strategies, his vision. He gave completely textbook answers. Nothing special. Nothing that stood out. He was average, completely, unremarkably average. Then I casually asked about his time at Boston University. His whole face lit up. He said those were great years, that he'd really learned a lot and made great connections. I asked him specifically about his group projects and how he worked with teammates. He hesitated just slightly before saying he'd always been a team player, collaborative and supportive. I pulled out my laptop and opened a file, the presentation from 10 years ago, the one I'd created completely alone while he and Marcus did absolutely nothing. I turned the screen toward him and asked if he remembered this particular project, because my memory of his collaboration was quite different. All the color drained from his face. He leaned forward, squinting at the screen, then looked at me, then back at the screen, then back at me. He whispered my name like he'd seen a ghost. I smiled and confirmed it was me. Then I asked if he remembered the presentation. Derek started stammering through excuses, how young and stupid he'd been, how much he'd grown, how sorry he was. I let him finish his whole speech, then calmly thanked him for his time and told him we'd be in touch. Marcus came in next. Same exact story. Didn't recognize me until I pulled up screenshots. Yeah, I'd kept receipts, including that Ursula meme he'd posted. His face went completely white when he saw it. Jason's interview was scheduled for the following day, but Jason was different. His resume was actually impressive. Real results from major campaigns, genuine talent and growth. When he walked into my office, he recognized me immediately. He literally stopped in the doorway, just froze, stared at me for a long moment. Then he said he needed to say something before we even started the interview. I gestured for him to sit. He sat down but didn't pull out his portfolio. Instead, he looked directly at me and said he'd been a complete jerk to me in college, that there was no excuse for how he'd treated me, that he'd thought about it over the years and felt terrible. He hadn't known I was the CMO when he applied, but now that he did, he needed me to know he was genuinely sorry. I hadn't deserved any of it. I studied his face. He looked uncomfortable but sincere. I asked him why. Why had he done it? He exhaled slowly and admitted that, honestly, it was because he'd been insecure. He'd been terrified people would see he didn't actually have anything figured out, so he'd made fun of others to feel better about himself. It was cowardly and wrong, and he'd regretted it ever since. I had 3 positions to fill and 3 guys who'd made my college life miserable. The decision should have been obvious, right? Derek and Marcus got rejection emails, not purely because of what happened in college, though that definitely didn't help, but because they were mediocre candidates who still hadn't learned to take responsibility for their actions or their careers. They'd spent 10 years blaming everyone else instead of actually improving. Jason was different. His work was legitimately excellent. His ideas were innovative. His track record spoke for itself. And unlike the others, he'd actually grown as a person. He'd recognized his mistakes and owned them without making excuses. I offered him the position. When I told him, he looked genuinely shocked. He asked me why, after everything. I told him this job wasn't about our past. It was about the company's future. And he was the best person for the role, period. But I also told him something else. I said that people could change, but only if they actually wanted to. Only if they did the work. He'd clearly done that work. Derek and Marcus hadn't. Jason started 2 weeks later. Our first leadership team meeting was interesting. I had my 3 new senior directors, plus the rest of my executive team, about 12 people total around the conference table. Jason walked in, professional and prepared. When he saw me at the head of the table, there was this brief flash of something in his eyes. Not fear exactly, more like respect mixed with residual guilt. I ran the meeting like I ran everything. Efficient, direct, focused on results. We discussed Q4 strategy, budget allocations, upcoming campaigns. Jason contributed solid ideas. He was good at his job, really good. After the meeting, he stayed back. Everyone else filed out, and it was just us. He told me he wanted to say thank you, that he knew I could have easily passed him over, and he appreciated the opportunity. He wouldn't let me down. I looked at him and said something I'd been thinking about for 10 years. I told him that back in college, he and his friends thought my weight was my biggest obstacle. They thought my Disney backpacks were embarrassing. They thought I'd never amount to anything because I didn't fit their image of success. But they were wrong. My appearance was never the obstacle. Their character was theirs. While they were focused on surface-level nonsense, I was building skills, relationships, and a reputation for excellence. While they were tearing people down, I was creating value. And that's why I was sitting in the CMO chair and he was sitting across from me. You know what the best part of this whole story is? It's not that I became their boss. That's not the revenge. The real revenge is that I didn't need revenge at all. See, Derek and Marcus are still out there somewhere, probably still blaming the world for their mediocre careers, still making excuses, still thinking that success is about looking the part instead of actually being excellent at what you do. Jason learned his lesson, but it took him 10 years and almost losing a major opportunity to figure it out. But me, I learned the most important lesson back in that college classroom. I learned that what other people think about my body, my clothes, my interests, my appearance, none of that matters. Not even a little bit. What matters is competence, work ethic, integrity, results, the ability to create real value for real people. I didn't succeed despite being overweight. I didn't succeed despite wearing Disney backpacks. I succeeded because I focused on what actually mattered while everyone else was distracted by superficial garbage. That bakery I helped in college, they still send me free cupcakes every year on the anniversary of that presentation. Patricia Chen is still my mentor and became one of my closest friends. The clients I've worked with have gone on to build incredible companies. I built real relationships. I created real impact. I earned real respect. Here's what I want you to understand. This story isn't about body positivity, though I'm totally fine with my body. It's not about proving bullies wrong, though that's a nice bonus. This story is about priorities. Every single day, you have a choice. You can spend your energy worrying about what small-minded people think about you. Or you can spend that same energy becoming undeniably excellent at something that matters. You can let other people's insecurities become your limitations. Or you can recognize that their opinions are completely irrelevant to your success. Those guys in college thought they were better than me because they fit society's image of what successful people should look like. They had the right clothes, the right bodies, the right social status. But none of that translated into actual competence. None of that built real skills. None of that created genuine value. 10 years later, the truth became obvious. Looking the part means nothing if you can't actually do the job. I've hired hundreds of people since becoming CMO. You know what I look for. Not their appearance, not their social status, not whether they fit some arbitrary image of what a marketing executive should look like. I look for people who are hungry to learn, people who take ownership of their work, people who create value instead of just talking about it, people who treat others with respect regardless of their appearance or background. Because those are the people who actually succeed in the long run. It's been 2 years since I hired Jason. He's been promoted twice. He's now Executive VP of Brand Strategy, and honestly, he's one of the best hires I've ever made. We have a solid professional relationship built on mutual respect and shared commitment to excellence. We've never talked about college again. We don't need to. We're both different people now, focused on building something meaningful. Derek reached out on LinkedIn about 6 months ago. Sent me this long message about how he'd been reflecting on his life choices and wanted to apologize. I accepted his apology and wished him well. I didn't offer him a job. He never asked. Marcus. No idea where he is. Haven't heard from him. Don't really care. And me? I'm still wearing Disney backpacks sometimes. I'm still the same weight I was in college. Maybe more. I still love cartoon movies and quote them in executive meetings. But I'm also running marketing for a Fortune 500 company. I'm mentoring young professionals. I'm speaking at conferences. I'm making decisions that affect thousands of people and millions of dollars. My weight hasn't changed. My love for Disney hasn't changed. What changed was my skill set, my network, my reputation, and my impact. That's what actually matters. So here's my message to anyone watching this who's ever been made to feel less than because of how they look. Your appearance is not your obstacle. Other people's small-mindedness is their obstacle. Stop trying to prove them wrong. Start building something so substantial they become irrelevant. Don't waste your energy on revenge. Invest it in excellence. Learn skills they don't have. Build relationships they never could. Create value they can't imagine. Become so undeniably competent that their opinions literally don't matter anymore. And when they inevitably show up 10 years later, whether it's in your office or anywhere else, you won't be angry. You won't be bitter. You'll just be successful. And that's infinitely better than any revenge fantasy. The best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's building a life so fulfilling that you forget they even exist. I'm Sarah Henderson. I'm a chief marketing officer. I wear Disney backpacks. I'm overweight. And I'm successful not despite these things, but because I never let them become excuses. If you took something from this story, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what you're building while everyone else is distracted. I want to hear your story. Thanks for watching. Now go build something incredible.